Now, here's the host of Good as Gold, Nick Grovich.
Hi, Nick Grovich. I'm here live in Phoenix today. I have a lot to talk about. As usual, I have more to talk about than I probably can do in an hour, but we're going to give it a shot. We had a little seminar. I like to call them workshops because it's really a lot more back and forth than me just sitting there talking to everyone. So we had a little seminar yesterday in South Phoenix at the Arizona Grand, the old Point, and it was a nice turnout. It was roughly 20 people, which I really like because I had time to talk to almost everyone there. I got to see what their concerns were. Talk about specific questions they had and specific coins and that type of thing. That's why I like to keep the seminars fairly small. I mean, in the past, long past, I used to do seminars with Ron Paul and General Westmoreland and some of these bigger names. I don't know how I got thrown in there, but I did. And there'd be 400 or 500 people there. And that was always a little intimidating. And the thing I never liked about that was, with 400 or 500 people in the room, I really couldn't just take questions and answers, or I'd be there for a full day by myself. And then there'd be a mad rush for me for people that wanted to take me to lunch or dinner. And I really only ever got to talk to a handful of people. So the way we like to do our seminars, I know this is kind of a day late for you maybe, but we'll be having more seminars, I think in February? In February. But it's nice because we try and keep them small so we can really talk to everybody and see what's concerning the people that are there. So, I walk in the seminar, I have a whole list of subjects I'm going to talk about, and what I generally do is I kind of mix it up and change it a little bit based on what's actually on people's minds. So it was really interesting. I had some people there that were very, very knowledgeable. I had a lot of clients that have been with me for a while. I had two brothers who were actually some of my first buyers way back in like 1984 when I moved to Phoenix, and so that was kind of nice seeing clients that have been with me for that long and still coming to see what I had to say. So anyway. As we get closer to February, I'll let you know when our next seminar is, where it is, and all that good stuff. But I would encourage you, if you're interested at all in coming, sign up early. I mean, it's too early right now, but sign up early and come and just bring your questions with you. It's a really good time. Also, November 4th, we're having a workshop in Palm Springs at the JW Marriott. And that's going to be we have it scheduled 1 to 3. The reality is we go 1 till 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. We'll stick around as long as you want to sit and talk to us. We usually show up at noon and leave around 5. But, if you're in the Palm Springs area, call my office, 800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com and you could sign up to join us at that seminar. Again, that's November 4th, the day after Election Day. I think it's a Wednesday, and that's at the JW Marriott in Palm Springs or Palm Desert. Let me move forward here a little bit. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I asked that if you had questions or something you wanted me to talk about, and you didn't want to call me here live or at the station, that you could call the office. And I had a person call and actually ask some really good questions. So I'm going to try and talk about what he asked about today. So Dennis, I hope you're out there and listening today. I appreciate the suggestions. I'm going to send you a Silver Eagle for helping me out. And we're going to talk about everything today: coins, metals, surveys, and what Dennis asked about in his message he left me. So let's start out. The metals market's been kind of interesting this week. As you've probably all heard about, we have a big scandal going on with the Volkswagen. It was actually kind of ingenious. I'm not sure I understand the whole thing, but apparently they have a, what do you call it, a computer program on their emissions controls that apparently can adjust itself to show that the car is actually producing reduced emissions, not commissions, emissions. And so when the cars were being tested, I guess it gave false readings. It also gave false readings on mileage and that type of thing. So it's a big deal. Everyone's going after Volkswagen. And what surprised me about this was the very next day, platinum was down heavy and palladium was up really strong. Palladium's up probably close to $100, which is huge since it was only a little over $500 to start with. Today it's up around $660. That was a huge move for palladium. And the reason for that is the thought process. And this is what I always say. It's also a lot of it's psychology. None of this has really affected the market in that people, the industry's not buying less platinum and more palladium. It's just that the psychology is that since it's the diesel engines, that in Europe they're going to crack down on the diesels. They'll start producing fewer diesel engines and more gasoline engines. Palladium is used more in gasoline engines. Platinum is used more in diesel engines, although platinum is used in all catalytic converters. So what happened is you had a big sell-off in platinum because that's what's used basically in the diesel engines for their catalytic converters, and you had a big move into palladium because the thought is if they go to more gasoline engines and the diesel craze kind of dies out in Europe, that would affect the demand for those two metals. I thought it was kind of a big move, really, for just speculation. Like I said, it's not that anything happened dramatically to buying and selling of the actual metals. It was all paper trades, all speculation, but still, it really moved those markets substantially. So, it'd be kind of interesting to see. It is interesting. Platinum in the past has always traded at about 3.5 times the price of palladium, and right now they're only about $300 off. So right now platinum is only about roughly 50% more than palladium, which is really interesting. And I've said this before. I'm a big fan of looking at ratios. I look at ratios of gold to platinum, silver to platinum. Of course, everybody's familiar with the silver-gold ratio. But occasionally, as I mentioned months ago, these ratios will change. Sometimes there's fundamental factors involved that just change the overall market for the metal or metals. And I think that's what you've had happen with platinum and palladium. So I think if you're looking at the old 3.5 to 1 or even 2.5 ounces to 1 ounce platinum to palladium, you'd be looking at this right now and saying palladium's very, very overpriced. And it's too early to tell what the real ratio of platinum to palladium should be because we've gone through a big change in the uses of those metals. Back in the 90s, they didn't use palladium that much. It was almost strictly platinum that was used in catalytic converters. They used rhodium and palladium for certain engines. But what happened in the early 2000s is palladium was substantially less than platinum. It was, give or take, I'm just going by memory now, but it was about a quarter to a third the price of platinum. And so what happened basically was they had a process where they could use palladium instead of platinum in catalytic converters. They're both PMGs, which is platinum metal group. And so in Detroit, they started switching to palladium because it was much cheaper. Problem is, palladium's actually much more rare than platinum. So within 6 months, it went from roughly $200 to $1,100. In the meantime, platinum was $700 or $800. So they had to cut back on that.
Once again, here's Nick Grovich.
Okay, I'm back with you. When we got cut off, in case you're just joining us, we were talking about the metals. In particular, I was talking about platinum and palladium and how the ratios can change. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I've got a lot I want to talk about today. But what I was saying is, sometimes these ratios do change. Sometimes there's fundamental changes in the markets. And I think that's what you saw maybe 10, 15 years ago with platinum and palladium. Platinum used to be 3 to 4 times the price of palladium, and right now it's only about 50% higher than palladium. So, I always get people that call and say, well, is that a good deal? Is platinum undervalued? Is palladium overvalued? I think platinum's very undervalued. I've been saying for a long time I thought palladium was undervalued just because they use it now in a lot of catalytic converters. And I was telling the story a little bit about what happened back, I think it was 2001, when Detroit started putting palladium in the catalytic converters. What they found out is even though palladium was lower in price, it's actually much more rare than platinum. So when they switched their process to using palladium, within 6 months the price went from, and I'm just going by memory, so I might have the prices, they might not be exactly accurate, but it went from something like $175 or $200 to $1,100 in a matter of, I thought it was 6 months, maybe it was a year, but I remember it was a very, very short time period. I remember visiting a client who had bought some palladium coins. He had bought them from, in fact, he bought them from Blanchard way back in the 70s, and they were sold to him as rare coins, of course. And he had paid $800. And I mean, since he bought them, they were probably never worth more than $200 or $250. And I just remember this because I was at his house and he had the coins, and I could not believe I was paying $1,100 a piece for these coins. And that turned out to be the high. That turned out to be about as high as palladium got. And I thought, wow, that just seems crazy paying that much for palladium when platinum was, I don't remember exactly, but $700 or $800 an ounce. And of course, soon after that, they went back to using platinum instead of palladium. And today they use a combination of the two metals. So industry's pretty resourceful. They can figure out that they can't go 100% palladium, or they get themselves in a box where they can't get the metal. So they've figured it out to where they can use just enough palladium to still have a price advantage, and not get themselves in trouble. But that's changed the relationship between the price of platinum and palladium. So it's going to be very interesting. At this point, to me, they're so close in price, but it does highlight what I've been saying about platinum and palladium also, and even rhodium. I think when we get back to a situation where China gets a little bit better. I mean, it's kind of crazy. China is only at 7% expansion. United States, we'd be doing backflips if we ever got to 7%. GDP, we're at 2-3%, and they're saying we're in this great recovery. China's at 7%, and everybody's saying, "Oh my gosh, how come they're only at 7%?" That's a huge gain every year, 7%. So at some point, that has to affect commodities in general, everything from oil to wood to copper to platinum and palladium and probably even silver to a degree. And I think the problem is going to be that right now, they just don't need a lot of platinum and palladium. There's a deficit of palladium this year. They don't mine. There's not enough around for what they're using, so they're depending a lot on recycling catalytic converters. That's about the only place they get the recycled palladium. But what happens when things do pick up and they need the platinum, they need the palladium? There's just no real way to increase the amount of those metals. If I'm missing something, feel free to call me and tell me, because I don't see where they're going to increase the amounts. Most of the platinum and palladium comes out of South Africa and Russia. And as I've mentioned 100 times, 3 mines provide 80% of the world's platinum. One of the mines is cut back. Another mine's cut off their deep mining operations. So right now, those mines have scaled way back. And I just wonder, whether it's 6 months from now or 6 years from now, when the demand picks up, you could double the price of platinum, and I don't know where they're going to get the metal. A lot of people say, well, you'll have investors selling back in the market, but only 10% of what's produced in platinum every year goes to investors. So it's really just a small amount in investor hands, and even the ETFs. It's a very small amount when compared to gold or silver. So anyway, that's enough about the metals. You probably know by now gold's up $22, $23 today. I don't see anything big happening, except as usual, it's following the dollar. It seems like we just got done worrying about if the Fed was going to raise rates or not. They came out, they're not raising rates, and 2 days later, everybody's worried about if they're raising rates in October. It's just, it's just a crazy cycle that's not going to end until they finally pull the trigger and raise the rates. And to me, they're kind of in a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation. They've opened their mouth and said they're going to do it, so I think they feel like they have to follow through at some point. But all that does is it makes the debt more expensive, and I think it hurts the stock market when they raise the rates from the fact that a strong dollar just makes our goods much more expensive. And that's bad for industry in this country. I mean, that's the simplified version, but I don't see, they're just in a position where whether they raise rates or not, it just seems like it's going to be a negative for the market no matter what happens for the stock markets. But we'll see what happens. We'll have to just see what happens. Now, I want to cover a couple things here. We had a winner yesterday in our weekly gold survey, Kevin in Scottsdale. Missed it by, a couple dollars? Yep. I don't have the prices here in front of me that Kevin guessed, but Kevin in Scottsdale will be getting a Silver Eagle. So we'll send that out. If it hasn't gone out, we'll get that out today or tomorrow. And I want to go back now to what Dennis asked me to talk about. He left a message, and he said he's a precious metal owner, and he says, how do investors get into rare coins? He knows that I often say that most people are better off not getting in rare coins, but how about some tips as to how to get started? Then he also asked about premiums and buying versus selling. So I could do 2 shows just on this, Dennis, so thank you. Rare coins can be a good investment. It just takes a lot more effort than buying gold and silver bullion. And if you're dealing with a true dealer, I'm talking about the old-time guys like me who got in this because they love rare coins. You can get the right dealer. They can steer you in the right direction. Of course, every dealer is going to have a different opinion of what they think are the right types of coins to buy, and that's where you need a little education to get started. If you're interested at all in even exploring that, or if you're interested in just being a collector, you can call my office. The local number is 480-553-5282. If you're out in Palm Springs, it's 800-221-7694. That 800 number will work from Arizona also. But as you know, I'm a member of the Professional Numismatics Guild, and they have some pretty nice brochures that I think are worth reading. The first one is The Pleasure of Numismatics, and it's the history as reflected in coins, tokens, metals, and paper money. And they give you it's a real nice brochure. They do this up. They make this available to their members. They give you a little introduction to coins, the different mints that they made coins. They just give you some real basic information. They have another brochure that's called Important Things to Know Before You Buy Rare Coins and Currency, and that's very worthwhile too. So if you want, that's a real good place to start. Read these 2 brochures. They give you some hints. They give you some red flags to watch out for. P&G is a very elite group of coin dealers, and I'm a member, so hopefully you can come to me, but they can give you a list of member dealers that you can go to get information and get reliable advice. So that's the first place I would start. We're coming up on a break here in a minute, and I'll talk more about this after the break. But there's a lot of different publications that you can get. There's the Numismatist, it's a magazine. Coin World, that's another magazine. If you really get involved in the rare coins, you could even subscribe to the Coin Dealer newsletter. And we'll talk more in just a second.
Once again, here's Nick Grovich.
Nick Grovich back with you. We're talking about how you would get started if you're interested in collecting or investing in rare coins. So the first thing I would recommend is you can call my office, 800-221-7694. Be happy to send you out the 2 brochures by the Professional Numismatist Guide, The Pleasure of Numismatics, and what was the other one? before you buy rare coins and currency. So they give you it's a quick read, gives you a little overview of what type of coins are out there, what type of coins are collectible. The other brochure, Before You Buy, tells you some of the things to watch out for and gives you some of the red flags to look at. If you're, and a lot of it depends on whether you're trying to invest in coins or collect or try and combine the two. Not to give all the local coin shops free advertising, but if you're just getting started, you want to see what coins look like. Your local coin shop's not a bad place. You can go in there, you can hold coins, you can look at them. You get a good idea. Maybe something catches your fancy. You wanna go into the Barber coins or Mercury dimes, whatever it is. But a local coin shop's a great place. When I was a kid, I used to spend hours at the coin shops, and some of those guys just have the patience of, well, I don't know who, but they have so much patience to sit there with a 12-year-old kid and let me look at coins. And occasionally I buy one here and buy one there with my limited grass mowing money, but. It's a great place to go and look at coins. Depending on which coin shop you go to, it's not a bad place to buy collectible coins. Another thing you probably want to do if you go is pick up a copy of what we call the Red Book. I think the 2016 Red Book has been out since July. They come out in July. They put the prices together a year and a half earlier. Be careful because generally most of the price guides you're going to look at, whether it's in Coin World magazine, the Numismatist, most online value guides, or the Red Book, they're showing you. Most of the time, they're showing you a high retail value. That's true, too, if you look at the PCGS website. For the most part, when they show you what a coin's value is a very tricky term, although it doesn't sound like it. They're telling you what a high retail price is. You have to remember, most of these places are supported by coin dealers. PCGS is supported by coin dealers. These magazines, they get their advertising money from coin dealers. So when they list prices, they have to list a price that allows the dealers to make a decent markup. And sometimes you'll see price guides and they're real honest about it. They'll say, if you turn around and sell the coin, be prepared to lose 40%. So keep that in mind when you look at these prices. They're really a ballpark of what a retail price is. And it goes both ways. Sometimes they're too cheap, sometimes they're too expensive, but at least it gives you an idea of what you're looking at and an idea of what the value is. So that's a really good place to start. So like I said, it's a matter of if you're collecting or investing. If you're collecting, you can have, there's a lot of coins you can buy for $100 that are very historic. They're in nice shape. You can have a lot of fun. You could actually put a real nice collection together for under $100 a coin and actually get some nice quality coins. Now, if you're a serious investor, again, I would point you towards P&G members, Professional Numismatist Guild. I'd be very cautious, and I don't want to sound like I'm beating up the competition, but I'd be really cautious about some of these big mega dealers that call you on the phone 20 times a week or have brokers that are calling you all the time to try and sell you something. Typically they're selling you coins that are either very, very high priced. I'm not going to say overpriced, but very high priced. Or they're selling you very common coins. Again, there's exceptions to everything, but I'm making some big generalities. You're usually going to get a lot better education dealing with somebody who's a real coin dealer, and it's hard to explain to you what the difference is, but a coin dealer is not typically the guy that's calling you 10 times a week with a hot deal and the best, this is the best deal going, and this is my hot deal, you got to buy it today or it's going to be gone. So if you're interested in learning more, you can call my office. We'll be glad to send you more information. There's different books about different areas of the market too. So if you're interested in Buffalo nickels, there's books all about Buffalo nickels. They'll tell you the rarest dates. They'll go into detail. One of my favorite areas are the old silver and gold commemoratives, and I've got if you're interested in that, I've got the U.S. Silver and Gold Commemorative Encyclopedia. I'm not sure that's the actual name of it, but it's been out of print for probably 20 years. And because that was always my area of expertise, and that's one of the areas I always loved. I've got probably a couple hundred of those books that I stuck away in my closet. So, if you're interested in that, call the office. I think if you could find one of those books, it probably cost you $50 to find one because they're out of print, and it's the best book. It's the best book out there on commemoratives, bar none. If you're really interested, call me. I'm glad to share one of those, give you one of those books if you're interested. So that's some basics of how to get started. I would tell you a lot of people will call and say, well, I was on eBay, and they're trying to find out what prices are on eBay. I'm not a huge fan of using eBay. I have clients who have used it in the past. I've seen a lot of really bad experiences. I've had clients who have bought a lot of counterfeit coins there, a lot of misrepresented coins. I think they've tried to clean it up a little bit, but I'm just going to tell you that as a dealer, we have certain things that we look at. We look at auction records, we look at populations, we look at prices, prices that coins have actually traded at to come up with what the values of coins are. And in all these calculations, they don't take eBay prices into account. And like I said, I'm not going to badmouth eBay. It's a good service, obviously, but when the dealer-to-dealer price guides don't use their prices and take their prices into account, I would say take their prices with a grain of salt. You don't really know if the coins were bought or sold, and I don't really keep up with it. It's just not an area I really use. You can go to there's a lot of information out there that wasn't around back in the 80s. It was really based on how much you knew. It was based on experience. You dealt with a dealer who went to all the coin shows, and they could tell you, well, that coin doesn't show up very often, or yeah, we see those coins all the time. They might go to auctions, and just from memory or from keeping track, they could tell you a lot of that information. The neat thing today is, as dealers, we have what's called the Coinplex and also the Certified Coin Exchange. Now, these are subscription services, so it's probably not something you'd want to get. They're very expensive every month, but any dealer can log in and show these to you. They show us so much information. They show us how many coins of each coin and grade are graded, so you have an idea what the population of the coin is. They show us which dealers are paying what for the coins, so they show us live bids. They show us if there's coins for sale and what price whoever has them for sale for is willing to sell them for. And they show us auction records going back, like some of them go back 20 and 30 years. So it's a heck of a lot of information that, like I said, 30 years ago, 40 years ago was not available. You've got a lot of information out there. And it's funny because I just read an article in the Numismatics magazine called Perfect Knowledge, and they're talking about the rational investor. And of course, to make a decision, you need knowledge. And I guess that's where I'm headed, is before you buy anything, you need to spend some time, and whether it's on the internet or talking to a dealer, kind of explore the different areas of the market. And, they're talking about the more knowledge you have, the better your choice is going to be. The problem with the coin market is you could have perfect knowledge today and it all changes tomorrow. And it's really interesting because in this, I'm going to go to this article here for a second. They're saying that, the perfect collector would know exact rarity of all the coins. He'd know how many coins survived, what the populations are, what the original mintages are, and which coins are the best. And by that, they mean the best quality coins. And this is one reason the market crashed so hard in 89 and 90. There was, when they first start grading coins, we had knowledge of what was being graded. But in the very beginning, of course, no coins were in the certified holders. So as time went on, 1 month you might have the only coin known, and a month later it might be one of 6, and 2 years later it might be one of 100 coins known. So the population, the number of coins available, changes all the time. And that still happens. In the article, they're talking about, they say, to illustrate how imperfect knowledge affects the market and the average collector, let's take a trip back in time and look at the sale of an actual coin. So they're going back to January 2003, and the item up for sale is an 1853 $5 gold graded MS64 by PCGS. And the description here says the specimen stands alone as a population 1. That means it's the only coin graded, and it's in this auction. The catalog describes the coin. It's an average strike, and they describe the look of the coin. Nice example of the date. Nice eye appeal. And it is the nicest one anyone has ever seen in the highest graded coin. So the collector decides he pays $12,650 for the coin. In 2015, however, PCGS population figures now have 2 coins in MS64, 2 in MS64 Plus, 1 in MS65, and 1 in MS66. So, in 2003, this MS64 was the nicest coin available, the nicest coin known, but 12 years later, it's not a terrible coin, but it's not even in the category of being the finest coin. So that coin's probably worth about half of what this collector paid for it, even though he did all his homework and did all the research he had based on the information at the time. So, there's just a lot to know. There's a lot that you can't know in a matter of doing a month or two of investigation on any of the coins. And when we get back from this break, we'll talk a little bit more about this.
Once again, here's Nick Grovich.
Nick Grovich back with you. We're talking about how you get started being a coin collector or investor. And so far, I've told you can call me or the Professional Numismatics Guild and get a couple of brochures they put out. You can start by getting a copy of the Red Book. The neat thing about the Red Book is they show you pictures and give you a very brief description of every coin the U.S. Mint has made. So you can kind of go through there and see what coins look like, see if something catches your attention. There's all kinds of books, whether it's Mercury dimes or Buffalo nickels or Morgan dollars or commemoratives. If you have an area you like, there's all types of books out there that can give you much more information. Here's an interesting book that, again, I'm reading the Numismatics magazine. So that's something else you could do. You could subscribe to Coin World or the Numismatics magazine. If you need help with any of this stuff, call the office. I'll give you the names, the addresses, how to subscribe. My number at the office, 800-221-7694. Here's a book called The Fred Book, A Guy's Guide to U.S. Coins. And the guy who wrote the book, he says, I'm just a regular guy. I wanted to appeal to a reader with low-falutin tastes like mine. So he skips over all the great rarities, and he talks about, it's kind of a funny book, talks about common stuff that people have. He's got a section on translating coin dealer slang, and I love this one example. He said, here's an example. Unks all stunk, a bunk, a dunk, and some junk. And what that means is the coins I sent in to get graded weren't uncirculated like I thought. One was counterfeit, one was dipped, and the rest had slate wear. So if you want to really learn to understand coin dealers, you could read that section. He goes a little overboard, honestly, but there's fun books and there's very serious books. And depending on how much money you're going to spend, I would tell you don't take the first guy that you talk to on the phone and send him $100,000. Start off, buy a coin, buy 1 or 2 coins. If you're going to spend $100,000, maybe buy a coin or 2, spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, get the coin, then do some homework on it. Maybe you call another dealer and see what they'd pay for it. You find out you're gonna need to find out, what the spread is, the difference between the buy and sell. And dealers will always tell you, oh, it's 28% or it's 10% or it's 50%, whatever they tell you. But honestly, until you buy one and go and sell it, you're not really going to know what they're telling you is the truth. I know dealers that claim they sell for 10%, and yet they're charging double what I could buy a coin for. So either they're grossly overpaying or they're just flat out lying. The only way you're going to know that for sure is buy a coin and go sell it and see what kind of loss you take on the coin. That's going to tell you how that dealer is treating you right up front. Sometimes you sell it back to the same dealer. Just don't tell the dealer what you're up to, or they're just going to fudge it and make it look good because they want your $100,000. The other thing is, if you're spending more than a few $100s, you can buy the Coin Dealer newsletter. Now, even though it's called Coin Dealer newsletter, they'll sell anyone a subscription. It's less than $200 a year. Now, I'm going to give you a caution. You can get in a lot of trouble with that because of the way that they put the numbers together. I guarantee you I could find coins in there that are traps, which means if you pay that price, you're paying way too much. And I can find coins in there that you couldn't possibly buy for the prices they list them. So, unfortunately with pricing, there's always going to be something that slips through the cracks because they have different ways of getting their prices and the way that they update prices and things like that. So none of these is going to absolutely protect you, but each one of these things I'm telling you about, the Red Book, the P&G, the Coin Dealer newsletter, each one of them is going to give you a little bit more information. The Coin Dealer newsletter, they have the regular Coin Dealer newsletter, and they have the certified Coin Dealer newsletter. Honestly, if you're going to spend any kind of money, buy both of them. You're going to spend $300 a year. You're going to save more than $300 on your first purchase if you do it the right way. I mean, if you're spending $2,000 or $3,000, information is going to save you more than $300. So that's probably if you're serious, that's probably the very, very best thing that you could buy is getting a subscription to both of those. Now they come out every week, and chances are, unless you're really into it, you're not going to look at the price every week. The prices don't usually change week to week to week. So if you look at it once a month or once every 6 months, it's going to serve its purpose. You can also, I think you can go online with Coin Dealer newsletter and order just one copy even. And I think that's, I don't know what it is, $3 or $5. So it's a really, really inexpensive way to get the information that every dealer in the country has. I mean, you go to a coin show, every dealer at that show has a copy of the Coin Dealer newsletter. And like I said, it's not gospel, but that's what we're using when we're pricing coins. Now, sometimes things are worth more than Coin Dealer newsletter. Sometimes they're worth less. Back in like 1989, everything was worth 30% more than Coin Dealer newsletter. So if you went to a show and you said, well, what are you paying? Dealers might say, well, we're paying 30% over. That means they're paying 30% more than the listed prices. When you're in a soft market, they might be paying less than Coin Dealer newsletter. For example, proof sets. These, if you know what proof sets are, the Mint makes them every year. The newsletter lists every single date going way back to 1936, and they give you prices on bid and ask on all those different coins. Proof sets are so common. Generally, they're worth 20% less than Coin Dealer newsletter. So these are the little things you won't know, but you'll know a heck of a lot more than just talking to a dealer and taking his word for it. So those are some of the things you could do if you're dealing. If you're dealing in coins that are thousands of dollars each, I would ask the dealer to share the CCE, certified coin exchange information. They can print that off. They can show it to you. They can read it to you if you trust them to read it to you. They can tell you what the last auction records were. They can tell you what the bids are, how many coins are out there. So there's just a ton of information if you know enough to go out and ask about it. So hopefully that helps with coins. Now, I will tell you, the coin market has been a tough place to make money the last 25 to 30 years. The last really big runaway market we had was from 86 to 89. That's when it was easy to make money in rare coins. I'm not going to go into the whole situation because I could do a whole show on that. And I think I have in the past. But you could almost buy any coin in MS65 and make money back at that time. It was easy. You could throw a dart and make 300 or 400% in a couple of years in that market. But that's not normal. That's not a normal market. The way that people have made money in rare coins is you have to figure out which coins are most likely to have the greatest appeal to collectors or real serious collectors. And the whole idea is you want to pull those out of the market, and as the collectors or the investors run the price up, you sell them back in the market. Pretty simple concept. Of course, the concept's simple. Trying to figure out which coins fit that bill is a lot tougher. I'm running out of time here. I did want to go over this old catalog. Maybe I could do this again in 2 weeks when I'm back. I will not be here next week, but I have a guest coming on from Mexican Coin Company, Corey Frampton, and Carl Lattis from my office will be on. But if you go back and look at you can go back and look at prices on truly recognized rare coins, and you'll see that the really rare recognized coins, and I underline recognized because there's a lot of rare coins that nobody cares about. Those are the coins that have done really well. I'll close this out. I'm looking at a catalog. Actually, it's an auction catalog from 1957. Now, I know we're going back 57 years, but the most expensive coin ever sold right now is a 1794 silver dollar, sold for over $10 million a couple of years ago. And just by dumb luck in this catalog, there's the coins for sale, and it went for $6,500. That was a pretty good investment. 1894S dime sold back then for $4,750, which was a ton of money in 57. That coin goes for about $1.5 million today. So there's just a lot of work to do, and you got to do your homework first.